Hi there again. I did a little bit of digging. I figured out the solution to that issue that we had in the last video. So ess-default-style is the variable that we want to set in the .emacs. So yeah, this is what we were seeing, right? So typically, yeah, in Emacs there are some variables which you are meant to customize in your .emacs, and there's other variables which you're not meant to customize. And usually you can know that by looking at the man page. Usually says you can customize this variable. So here, conversely, if you look at ess-style, it's not telling you that you're supposed to customize this. So that is what's going on. So if we go back to our .emacs file, if we do setq ess-default-style rather than ess-style, that should get us what we want. Let's try. Yeah, opening up Emacs again for the first time. Now we go to the foo.r buffer, and now if we do the indentation, indeed we have the RStudio indentation. So yeah, that was the solution there. Another customization that I'll explain to you about in this video is this thing that it's asking you for, every time. So if we want to open up an R buffer here, we can just try to execute a line of code, send a line of code like Control-C, Control-N. Not sending anything here on this particular line, but it's going to prompt us to start an R process. And usually I find this annoying because it's always asking if I want to start in the current directory, and I always do. So it's just another key press that we have to do. So in fact, there's some customization you can put in your Emacs so that it's always just going to take the current directory and you don't have to ask. So if you would like that as well, I have some ESS code here. For example, I have ess-ask-for-directory nil. So if I put that into my .emacs file, it's going to not ask me for that directory anymore when I start up a new R process. So here I just set it to the nil, and here if we go back to our R script, open up a new R process using Control-C, Control-S, here it's just gonna open that up right away, and it's not going to ask us if we want to use the current directory. So another thing that you might want to do that I had in my .emacs, that I have in my usual .emacs file. Actually, I publish my .emacs file regularly on my GitHub. So if you go to github.com/tdhawk/.files, I have all of my configuration files that I'm using regularly. And if you go to the .emacs file, you'll see that there's like a bunch of configurations, which I call the most important ESS options, which I'm usually using on all of the different systems where I'm using Emacs and ESS. So we were just looking at the ask for ESS directory. You have ess-eldoc-show-on-symbol, which is also a kind of interesting one. If we go to our .emacs here, and we look at the documentation here, Control H V return, it'll show up. It's a variable that, if non-nil, it should help string whenever the point is on a symbol. But so if it is nil, it's only showing it when the point is in a function call, i.e. after the parentheses. So, in this example, here in binom test, it's going to show us what the binom test arguments are, but only if we're between those parentheses like we are now. So here, it's not going to show us. Here, it's not going to show us. And here inside, it's not going to show us either. But if we turn that on, it should show us anywhere. Now see, it's showing you all of the arguments of binom test, either inside that function or before it. Not after it, but indeed anytime you're on that. it will show it. So I like that usually. And the other option that I have is ess-eval-visibly-p. So that has to do with executing code blocks. Like, so for example, if we want to execute this whole code block here, you know, it's going to actually copy all of that code to the command line, or to the IESS-R buffer. So you see all of that code just got copied there. And so that's kind of a close mimic of the of what the usual R console does. But you know, for my purposes, I usually would rather just not do that, and actually it's a little bit faster to just not copy that. So you can add that eval-visibly-p nil thing. Here I'm executing that with Control X, Control E, and then if we're going back here, we can see that we can evaluate that code block, and it's just going to kind of show a dot to say that there was some code that was executed there. So, you know, if you actually want to, have a ESS buffer that shows a clear record of what you executed and what the results you got, you probably don't want to set that, but I usually just set that just so, because I have, tendency, I know what code I executed, and I don't usually go back to those buffers anyways. And yeah, and that's only for evaluating regions of code actually. So if you do line by line, you actually get the same result. I mean, you can actually see what lines that you sent. Anyway, so those are a few of the basic usual customizations that I use related to indentation and code execution in my .emacs, and that's it for this tutorial.